Hi guys, I'm very excited to introduce you with Tina Touli today. She's a designer based in London, and our topic for today, which is really the first time that we're exploring it on Bloomeranga's podcast, is going to be phygital experiences. And Tina creates very interesting futuristic work with a lot of colors, but it's great. We love colors. And she has worked across different media, mixing motion, 3D typography, sound, sort of materials. So it's going to be, I'm sure, a very enriching talk and very inspiring for all of us. So thank you, Tina, for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure. I can't wait for our chat. It's going to be a fun one. And thanks for this lovely introduction as well.
Yeah, so I guess what we see behind you is one of your works, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's correct. That's one of this colorful, fun typography.
Wonderful.
Love typography, so
yeah. So do you mind just telling a little bit about your work, how you've started, what you're focusing on these days, and
Definitely. Yeah, so I'm based here in London. I work in a great variety of design fields, as you already mentioned, like all the way from print to digital, all the way from branding to web design to motion to 3D, anything you can imagine. Kind of a main focus is on typography. I love typography. I love the shapes of the letters, but also graphics. So I love the variety of things. So I love jumping back and forth between different mediums, different techniques, different deliverables. So for me, the biggest nightmare is kind of if you ask me to do lots of different branding projects, for example, in a row, I'm gonna be oh, that's boring. I already did three. I want to try something else. I want to do some 3D. I want to do some motion, and then I'm excited again to go back to branding. So as you will see also on my portfolio is all this kind of variety, because it comes from something that it's just me. I'm curious about all these different things, and I want to explore all those different kind of mediums and techniques. So I work in a kind of a lot of commercial works, as well as more artistic approaches. And nowadays I'm running my little studio, so just a couple of people working with me, and also a great bunch of freelancers assisting on different projects. And at the same time, I love experimenting, as I said. So I spent quite a lot of time developing more art projects, including an installation that I launched this year earlier on in the spring during Paradiso Festival, called Voices in My Head, which was a whole kind of meditation installation room, LED flooring, mirrors all around, and kind of an immersive experience. So I'm really, really keen always, as I said, in different mediums, and something that I'm looking forward to explore more is kind of bringing also the kind of digital world back to our surroundings, back to the analog in a way, because you will see quite a lot of mix of this blend between analog and digital in my work, and usually it's the other way around, starting with the analog, bringing it into the digital. So I'm exploring also the other way around, how it would work. I love to see things that they could be a bigger, larger scale, something that they could could be a bit more immersive in a way, and it would allow people to really experience them. So that's something that kind of a side thing that I'm heading towards, and I'm really excited, as you already noticed.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I really love this. And we at Bloomerangas also tried doing that, a few of the experiences for people, also in a gamified way. So I'm very, very excited to hear and learn about your experience. So I understand that these real life experiences where you are bringing in different media are more personal projects, right? the one that you recently did, which sounds amazing, like creating a meditational kind of experience that's also fully visually immersive, right? Can we do a little bit of deep dive in there? What type of digital experiences did you bring in, and but maybe can we go a bit more specific into that?
Yeah, definitely. So it's like something that I'm looking forward like to bring to life, hopefully soon also in London, because people like really enjoyed and immersed with that. So it had a great kind of like response, a great kind of impact. So that project I started like a couple of years ago during the pandemic, and I started working on this series of kind of like analog liquidy compositions that you'll see quite a lot in my work. So playing around with different liquids, capturing them with the camera, and creating all those like mesmerizing like footages that everyone like noticed them. Whoever saw them was like, oh, this is quite interesting. It really like lets you like dive into that and get lost within it. And what I wanted to create was like a series of different pieces that they will allow you exactly to do that, to get lost within, and then take a mind to just relax without like thinking about all the noise, what is around you, and just get lost within you, like just kind of like a self-meditation moment.
Wonderful.
And yeah, the visuals turned out to work really nicely. And then of course, when we are talking about an experience, sound would had to be something that I had to work on. And I had this great opportunity as I saw like a singer called Lydia Scarlett in one of her concerts, and I loved her voice. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what we need, some voices, because it's the voices in your head that all what is about. So she worked on this piece, like having full freedom to just interpret like every visual in a different way, expressing like different feelings from like more exciting to more sad ones, recording all those bits and bringing them into that footage. So we had a 20 minutes long footage of all those different emotions, feelings that they would just allow you to get lost within them. And then we were like, okay, we really need also like a home for them. We need something that would allow you to really experience them. Putting them on the screen of the computer, of course, is a way. But at the same time, I really tend to love like getting off from like the computer screen and experience things. So we had this great opportunity at Paradiso Festival to bring it to life and create the whole room, which was LED flooring, screens with like all the graphics, and then mirrors all around that would allow to reflect all the graphics, but at the same time immerse the viewer onto that. So you feel like you're part of that experience. And
Wonderful.
The sound was all around surround, so the different voices from different directions, allowing you to really get lost within that. And
Wonderful.
People like really enjoyed, really like felt like it was the room to like take a break, which was it was quite interesting because we wrote like a very short description on the room. We just wanted people to get in and enjoy without asking them to do something. And
Wonderful.
It was interesting how people would come after and would say, oh, I love that room there in the corner, because I was like, when the festival was too much for me, I could just go there and refresh, relax for a moment.
Right. That's what happens in the festivals, right? You get overwhelmed.
So exactly, and it was like amazing because that was the goal of that installation, that you would go there and take a moment for yourself. And without even like saying something to the viewers, that's what was the feedback, that they went there just to take a moment for themselves. So it was a really exciting experience. So I'm really looking forward to bring it into different locations, hopefully in the next year. And
Wonderful.
See where that goes.
That's great. It's great to have time to experiment, right? And I think any kind of personal projects also then enriches your palette of skills, which you can then transfer to your client work as well, isn't it?
Definitely. And I would correct that, because you never have time, you always have to make the time.
Good one.
So that's the reality. Yeah, to be honest, like when I was working on that, I was so busy with client work and it was like, oh my God, what am I doing? It takes so much time. It's like long hours of working and everything. But then it was like, yeah, I made it. It works. And now I feel like also more confident, of course, like to work with client work on that, because I did something that had a deadline, but it wasn't like, of course, like something that you would be scared of because you have like a client and you'll disappoint. So of course I had kind of like the festival, but it was all a bit more creative and relaxed context. So for me, like self-initiated work is really important, and sometimes like I tend to always make something that has a purpose as well. So if I do self-initiated work, I find like a specific reason, a specific thing that it's going to be used for. So it's not just a nice poster that nobody's going to use. Usually it is specifically designed for something. It might be like for a festival, for an initiative, for something that I can be part of and I can help in different ways. And this way,
Wonderful.
like, gives me some space to experiment. It gives me a deadline to be like, oh, I really need to do that, I cannot quit on that. And then of course, as you mentioned, it feeds back to the work, to the commercial work, to the client work, because then I had a lot of clients coming in and be like, oh, we really loved what you did here, can you do something similar for us? So
Wonderful.
yeah, I think that's usually like the safe place to experiment, like personal projects or projects, as I said, like kind of personal, that you do have like a kind of client or something, but not exactly something that leaves you a bit more like freedom to experiment.
Yes, exactly. And I think for creatives, it's also a great way to kind of stand out, right? If you end up creating something personal, right? It's a good way to create differentiation in your portfolio, because sometimes clients often, like you said, they come to you and say, oh, we loved what you do, can you do something similar, right? It's great when it starts from that angle, because most of the time it could be also just asking to copy paste something that other the creative did for a client, which is not great,
Yes,
right?
that's something like I tend to always like ask the clients to usually pick references from my own portfolio. Else, like, why would you hire me if you're not
Exactly.
something that you already see that I'm doing? And why wouldn't you hire someone else if you're bringing in references of that other person?
Exactly. Yes.
But it's also like, I think like one of the things is, of course, the client is going to come with some references, because that's how far they can think of where they want to get the project to. But it's our responsibility also as creatives to propose ideas. Even if they come with something, what I usually tend to do on a project is work like proposing like 3 routes to the client. One is like really close to what they asked for, one is with a tiny push, and the other is something like different, something that it's like out of the box kind of thing. So this
Love
way
that.
I try to push the clients to try new things, to do something different. Because of course, like the first thing that they would do is go to Pinterest or something, find some references and share with you, so they can communicate what they envision, what they like. But from that,
Right.
to copy what they shared, you can just understand what kind of style they want. Do they want something super like trendy, colorful? Do they want something black and white? Do they want something more vintage? So I think that's more important to get as kind of like feedback, and work on guiding the client and get them into the right direction. Don't like just recreate what's already there. There is no point in that.
Wonderful. And of course, if you're able to push the boundaries within the client's thinking, then for you as well, the work becomes exciting. There's more energy flowing, isn't it?
But we always have to also remember, as designers, we are hired to create something, which is not necessarily like for us to fix our portfolio, to make it nice. The most important is, does that thing work for the client? And then secondary, I can add in the portfolio or not. Because sometimes it does work for the client, what they need. And it has to be what it is. And we just need to accept. Like, for example, like if you design the catalog for Lidl, you can expect it to be like a must.
Yes.
Because nobody will go there. They will think that, oh, this is expensive, this is like this. No, it has to have the look that it has, because it communicates cheap and easy to get, So sometimes it's not about good design. Sometimes it's just about like making it. It's always actually about making work and communicate what you're supposed to communicate. Then if that piece is like a portfolio piece for you, it's up to you. And it also depends, like what you add on your portfolio is what you want to get more of. So
Right.
put like more experimental things, you will see people will approach you more for that. If you add more like commercial like things, then people will approach you more for that. So you have to kind of like define what you want to be hired for. And that's also like where personal projects also come in, because they help show a bit the direction. If you're not in the right direction that you wanted through client work, then you bring those in, so they slowly get you into the right direction.
Yes, wonderful. Love that. Love that. Yes, at the end of the day, design needs to serve a purpose for which we are doing it, right? It's not like artwork, right? Where you can sometimes create for the sake of experimentation or self-expression. Design has a very practical and functional purpose, right? Which we need to deliver on.
Yeah, design has like a brief that you need to answer the kind of question, the thing to create, to fill that gap, to make it work well. Else we talk about art, which is you shape the question in a way.
Yes,
so it's like two different things. Sometimes they can overlap, of course. But yeah, when it's like client work, we always have to remember the most important is to make successful for the client what you are designing. Then the rest comes second.
Yes, wonderful. Wonderful. So going back to your personal experimentation work, right? The work that we find, for example, on your website has been created with like objects and textures and materials. Can you tell us a little bit more about your process for when you are using these things, and sort of how does it start, how does it end?
So I always love experimenting. So anything for me that stimulate our senses could be an interesting object to investigate, to use as the basis, or even as the final kind of outcome. So I tend to like collect any kind of like textures and objects and things that I feel like are interesting, either just taking a picture of them or collecting the actual thing on those boxes, which I call them treasure boxes. My friend calls them collection of rubbish, which kind of is, you know.
It's all about perspective.
Yes, it's a matter of perspective, but it's been so many times that, you know, you need that little thing that was impossible to find, and it's there. Or an example, like I was just filming the other day for one of my clients, different materials, packaging materials, and I was looking for this kind of like white foam thing that they usually have in packagings, which is something that I can't go and buy, you know. It's something that you must have. So I was looking in my garage and I found so many amazing things. I was like, wow, finally I can claim that I kept them for something, you know.
Wonderful.
So it's sometimes, you never know. Anything that is interesting, I usually tend to keep like that. And then when a project comes in, or when I'm looking for inspiration, I tend to go back on those kind of treasure boxes and try to see if there is something that sparks any ideas. And usually I always find something in there. I'm like, okay, let's experiment. Let's give it a try. Let's see how that thing works. So that's kind of like how I usually approach a project, and how kind of it ended up having like so many different materials, so many like different explorations. But going back where all this comes from, which is usually what people ask about, it took me like years to understand myself as well. And I would say like I grew up like in a family that both my parents were really like makers, always creating things. And especially like my dad was working long hours, rarely had like time to really play with me or something. But I remember whenever he was home or whenever I was going to his shop, he was always doing things. He was always making things. And that could be like from like furniture for the house, to like repaint the car, to create like a dollhouse for me and my sister. So anything you can imagine. And so all this kind of influenced a lot, I would say, the direction that I am at the moment, because I was always there next to him, helping him, giving him the tools, and I was growing as well, like creating with him. And when I start designing, also like kind of like measuring everything, doing the drawings, and then helping him cut, put together, or whatever it was. So I was always like a little maker myself without even noticing. And that's something that I didn't notice. Like, also, I didn't say, oh, I love making, should I do something? It was something that just came by itself. I started like designing, and I realized like I was enjoying more and more when it happened to have something that it needs craft and to do by hand.
Right.
And then I started like, oh, this is quite interesting. So I started pushing myself to do more of that since I was enjoying that. So whatever opportunity allowed me to do that, I would definitely think of like, oh, let's go analog. Let's do like some paper sculptures, some like liquids, some inks, whatever comes to your mind. And so it's sometimes I would say, of course, it's not for everyone. It's more to like be true to yourself and figure out what you actually enjoy the most, because most likely that's where you're gonna be the best at.
Right.
And it's often connected to your childhood, what you enjoyed to do as a kid that comes later on as an adult, but not necessarily always. But yeah, it's, I would say, to find your own creative voice and also to enjoy what you're doing, you have to really stick with what you like, not to just look online and be like, oh, this is interesting, I should do something similar. No, if you don't enjoy, you'll never manage to get to that level. Just be true to yourself, do what you enjoy, do more and more and more of it. And the more you practice, the better you're gonna get. And yeah, the happier at the same time.
Wonderful. Yes, it all starts within, right? And we need to bring it out. You can get inspired, I guess, by what other people do. But in order for really kind of create your own style and really flourish with that, you need to go back to what you are interested in. Totally agree with you. So how does, for example, like you mentioned, when you're exploring objects or textures, you sometimes take photographs and then you kind of digitize that, right? Do you use any, for example, for typography? Do you is that like purely digital experience, or can that also, when you're creating it, or can that also start, from somewhere completely different and take you to typography?
Most of the times, like especially quite a lot of my work is typography based. So even if it starts with a texture or something, it's gonna end up like in something typographic, and that's my love for typography in general. So it's again something that happened to happen itself. I didn't really decide, oh, I'm gonna do typography. It was just like I was more and more keen onto that, and I realized like, yeah, maybe that's what I enjoy the most, But yeah, it's like even sometimes I take pictures of textures and things that I like, but they're not even good pictures. They're just pictures for me to remember that texture was interesting. And then when I decide to use it, I just go back to that library and be like, oh, texture was good. Like the other day I was looking for, like, I saw in the street this amazing pink packaging for eggs, like, and I really, really liked it. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect for this project. So I went to every store in the neighborhood trying to ask where I could find it, because I wanted the bigger one, not the supermarket, like the long one. I wanted the square, big one. And I was so excited when I went to one of the stores and they were like, yeah, we have some. Let me bring it. And they brought me that big one that I saw in the street that was melted in horrible condition. I'm like, amazing. So yeah, it was just like, because I took a picture, I found it quite interesting in the street, and then I was like, this is perfect for the project. It just happened in a few days after.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so sometimes, I sometimes like use these pictures as references, and it might be that I'm creating like fully digital, like whatever it is. Sometimes I might gonna start like analog, grab like the textures, the material, the object, whatever it is, and start creating something by hand, and then capture it with the camera, either like as a picture or as a video, and digitally edit. And it can be like that I'm editing thus far that it almost doesn't look like the initial thing. So it might be like how you do like a quick sketch on your notebook, and then the outcome, of course, is like 10 steps ahead. Sometimes I'm using like the analog stuff that is more like as my basis, and I build on top of it in order to create like the outcome. Well, sometimes, of course, it happens that the outcome is almost like the exploration itself. But I love adding like this digital layer on top of them that makes the user kind of question, is that created by hand or is it like a digital piece? And I think that's like a thin line of things that makes things like really, really interesting for the viewer.
Yes, yes, I think this is definitely increases curiosity.
But then it gets sometimes tricky because I have people approaching me and they're like, "Oh, we have like a 3D realistic project like this and that," and I'm like, "Oh, this is not really what I'm doing." They're like, "But this piece and that piece on your portfolio," I'm like, "Oh no, this is made by hand. It's not a like super like realistic 3D piece."
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting that you can achieve that look while it starts in a very analog way, right? So
yeah, and that's always what I
wonderful.
encourage people. Like, I don't like when I hear people complaining, "Oh, I don't have the right tools, the right skills or something." It's like, start with what you have. You'll figure it out on your way. You will find your way. If you really want to make it happen, you will make it happen. And nowadays,
Right.
especially, there are also so many tutorials and things. Even if you wanted to learn and make it in 3D, you can definitely do. You just need to watch a couple of them in YouTube, and then you will manage to get somewhere.
Right, right, right. How much do you use AI in your work, and what's your take on it? Because I think in creative, among designers especially, it has a lot of controversial opinions. What do you think about that? And are you already using
I
it
know
in your
quite.
work?
It's kind of like a scary thing. Like, we are not familiar with that, something new that really changes the industry. But at the same
Yes.
time, it opens up possibilities. The thing is, like, how do you actually use it that makes it useful on your workflow? So for me, it's not about just typing in a nice prompt and get like a style that's not related to you. That's like a bit like pointless in a way. And not exactly the right way to use for me. So what I tend to do quite often is like feeding in my own work and getting more variations. And I love it for this purpose. For example, I was working on a project the other day and I created like manually, like in Illustrator, a graphic, but I needed like a series of graphics for that brand. And you imagine like it would take really long time to do like 10
Right.
illustrations of that style, but I had the style. So I fit it in, asked what I wanted, and he gave me like in a couple of hours, because of course like you need to get a bit of back and forth so you can get the right outcome.
Yes.
Gave me like 100 variations, so I could pick then 10 super nice ones.
Which
And,
software did you use for that?
I'm using quite often Firefly. So, but I think like I'm still exploring as well. I haven't used any of the other ones yet. No, I used Midjourney as well for commercial.
Yeah, Midjourney is kind of the popular one.
I played around with like Raya and a couple of others, but I haven't really implemented yet the outcomes. I'm still like very curious and I'm still learning. I'm still in the process of that. But even like from Firefly, I would say when I get the outcome, I don't use the outcome as it is. Most likely I will trace it and recreate it.
Right.
Or I might even combine like 5 different pictures into one to get what I want as like a collage, and then I will redraw and recreate on top the whole thing.
Right.
So I use it more as a kind of like shortcut of my process to make things quicker, but I don't think I used any of them as a final outcome, anything that I produced with AI. So
yes.
all of them is like tweak changed, because it's also, I feel like still AI is great. It does some amazing visuals. The other day I received like a newsletter from the company I'm ordering my contact lenses, and 2 images. Both, they were so clear they were AI generated. I got more detailed text on them, like, oh, they used to use like a graphic designer to do that. So it's quite sad, but at the same time, what should they have? But also it lacks character. Because
exactly.
Like, oh, this brand that has this character. No, it's just AI. And no matter what you do, even if it tries to replicate like an artist's style, it's always gonna look like AI. So, and I don't know if that's gonna improve or what's gonna happen with that. I guess the more we feed in our work, the more it learns and gets better, which is quite problematic. But at the same time, I think like it really lacks personality.
I totally agree with you.
Some things, but as I said, it's the best way that I use it thus far is part of the process, not as a final outcome.
Yeah, that's exactly, I love that, what you said, and that's how I'm using it. I'm not so much designing, but like more like for product development, the process is very similar to what you explained, but you don't end up using the same ideas or concepts. You always end up tweaking and more like using it maybe for inspiration on some technical things, but that ends up recycled in the process, and the final outcome, it's still kind of massaged by you. It's not the final output. Yeah.
So
if you're striving for character and something original, right? But if you want just whatever fast and cheap, then yes. But I guess that's what would filter, brands that really want to create something authentic and original, bring out in the world. I think then a designer is definitely an important part of the process to kind of capture all these nuances. But then brands that want cheap and fast, maybe AI is sufficient. So at the end of the day, maybe it's even better, because when we have clients that just want something very basic. It's very frustrating to work, right?
Yeah.
On projects like that. So,
but the thing is something like, even if like now it's kind of like the trend to use AI, so it's cool sometimes for companies to use it. But once everyone uses it, then it's again like the matter of like, how do we stand out? Again, when you need the designer to give you the idea of how to stand out, because you got a nice tool. It's like, okay, people can also like open Photoshop and do a couple of things, but it's, then you need an idea, you need things, you need like a user again for that AI thing. So designers, of course, our role might change a bit, and of course we need to implement to the new tools, but it's just a tool in the end of the day. So it's like, how do we use it creatively? How do we push that thing to do something different, something that will help the brand stand out, have character and all these values that the brand needs.
Exactly.
And also it's like, I feel like brands will soon also look again back into like more crafted things. Since everything goes that way, all the way to the digital, people will start looking on something that they can relate and understand, which is something crafted.
Yes, very much. That will be the ability to bring it together like you are doing right now. I think it's a very unique approach to creating experiences, and there's so much space for experimentation and for creating across medium, right? Which is also one of the exciting things. To invert, revert, like you said, bring digital into physical into digital. There's no end there, right? With what you can do and how far you can go. But a purely digital experience, even if, it has all of these capabilities and tools, and AI would evolve, but I think that's not really what people need at the end of the day. Like, it doesn't end there based on what people's emotional needs are and deeper what is meaningful in life, right? So yeah,
exactly.
Yes. So I understood that playfulness and the fact that you're experimenting so bravely across different media is part of who you are, right? How do you find that working with your clients? Like, would the clients give you the time and freedom to experiment, or or it's usually like very strict when then based on what they want, and or somewhere in the middle? How do you sort of balance that?
Kind of like projects and clients and timelines. So there are like timelines, of course, that you have like almost zero time to experiment, so you have to go straight forward. But there are projects that they allow you to do so. And you like the mistake that most creatives do is like waiting the client to ask like, oh, let's do something a bit more creative, more different. No, that's not the way. You propose again, like, what is that? And you try to manage the time and everything according to expectations. And sometimes I do explain to my clients, like I propose an idea and I'm like, oh, this is what we can also do, but we'll need a bit of extra time for that. But what we could do perhaps is create one of the visuals quickly so you can launch what you need to launch, and then I will feed you in more things as we go. So kind of like work with the clients on the timeline. And even sometimes like ask, because it happened to me very often that they will come and they will say, oh, we have like a month to do that. I'm like, is there a possibility we extend a bit? It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does happen. And they're like, oh, okay, like in order to get this like great idea, we are happy like to push like farther and get some extra happen. But I think that's also where personal work is important, because you already experimented, you already tried some techniques.
Exactly.
Then you can implement it to the client work, and you have like an idea of how much time it's going to take you. And of course, like you're sure that it's not going to perfectly fail, because when you're experimenting, that's also the purpose of experimenting, that you don't know exactly what you're doing. And there are high possibilities that it's going to fail what you're doing. And it happened to me like very often, to be honest. It's just a matter of like being like, oh, okay, that failed, but it doesn't matter, I'm gonna try something else, or I'm gonna try something different. And it did happen that there were days also that I didn't really like the outcome, and I never really used. It's part of the process of learning, experimenting, trying new things.
Right.
With client work, is not the ideal space and time to do that. So that's why I say like it's good to experiment with things on your personal time, and then bringing it to the client work. And it's sometimes like it's not gonna be that you're gonna copy and create exactly your personal project to the client work. It sometimes is that you're gonna do something similar, but you have an understanding of how potentially those materials and those tools are gonna work correspondingly. Similarly, when you do digital things, for example, all these typefaces work nice together, so similar ones will work. It's like training your mind, training yourself, your eyes, to see and understand things, so you can then implement and save time later. So the more you practice, the more you experiment, the easier it's gonna get, the quicker. And it did happen to me, like sometimes we think of like, oh, doing by hand, it's gonna take a long time and everything. No, it's not always like that. For example, I was working on a packaging design for a pizza brand, and they have this ampersand, and I wanted to create them out of paper and connect it to show the values of the brand, which was about connection, collaboration, communication. And I was working on some digital versions that they were taking. I had just 2 days to do like the whole kind of like deck of the ideas, and they were taking quite a lot of time. At some point I was tired, and I'm like, oh, let me try something by hand quickly, and I just chopped very roughly, not even straight lines, some lines of paper, and I start connecting, like printed out the ampersands, stick them on the paper, and start trying to connect them. And suddenly I was like, oh, this is really cool. I took a picture with my phone and I put it on the deck. That took like half an hour maximum. And the client loved it. They even like bought from the deck like 2 ideas because they loved like both so much.
Wonderful.
So it took me like half an hour to an hour to create that piece. If you would try in 3D, good luck. You have to be really advanced, and it would take you a day, because you have to try to find how to connect and everything. So sometimes we consider like doing something analog that's going to be time consuming, but sometimes not. And I'm teaching also like that short course at Central St. Martin's here in London.
Oh, wonderful.
And it's just an online course I enjoy doing. And I have always like that question for them. I have a reference of like an illustration that has like it's half and half, and it's like ripped paper effect in between. And I'm always asking them on the last session, after I show them like all digital tools in Illustrator or Photoshop, how would you do this one? And they're just thinking like, oh, maybe we use masks, we use some effects. And I'm like,
right.
Just print it out, you rip it, and you scan it in. It's going to take you 10 minutes. And it's going to look super realistic and great. So it's kind of like a habit. Once you're like in the digital world, sometimes you're stuck there and you forget like about why would you try to create a ripped paper effect instead of just ripping the paper?
Ripping the paper. And
then this amazing texture feels 100% natural, because it is, and it's also more fun.
Right.
Yeah, it's always like we have to get over that idea that it's always gonna take time if you do by hand. No, that's not true. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's up to us to remember and be like, oh, that could be part of the process, and implement it to our process. Nobody will come knock your door and be like, oh, you should use that by hand,
No. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I love, Tina, that you're like projecting this, energy of experimentation, and you're at the same time, you're so structured. It feels like, I think you're able to plan out what clients need now, what they can do in the future. I'm sure clients love working with you. So it's sort of, you have this great mixture of skills of organization, experimentation, playfulness, but being very focused and strategic about how you do it. And so it's really beautiful to listen to you. It's very inspiring. And the fact that you also can work across media and you have the courage for that, that's also beautiful.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like my curiosity. I always enjoy like different mediums, different techniques. But as I said, it's like some people, that's also a question I get really often, like, is it good to like work in so many like different mediums and different techniques, or should I just focus in one style, one way, like doing specific thing? And it's like, again, like both are working. Like companies need both kind of like people, like both people that they can be like more generalist, that they can do a bit of everything, and people that they're really focused. Because for example, for me as well, I'm sometimes like building some ideas and I'm like, oh, I need this kind of like motion, this kind of style, and then I would hire a freelance that is specifically doing that to do that for me. So it's like, it's more like being true to what you enjoy the most. Do you enjoy the most like focusing on one thing and really pushing it to the edge to be like perfect on that, or experimenting and trying like different things at the same time? So both are like perfectly fine. It's just a matter of like finding like, okay, I'm gonna be doing that, so what is my strategy, what are my goals, how am I gonna get there? And also not being like, oh, I'm gonna do just one style, one technique, and I'm gonna keep doing that. You have to evolve that, you have to push that.
Right.
So always like try to figure out like, how can I push it farther and farther, and how could this like whatever self-initiated thing is implement later to client work? Except if it's just a piece of art, then how does it communicate to the audience? So it's always important in every piece you create to kind of like question, where does it lead you, what is the purpose of that, and why you're doing that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, for your time. For all of us who are listening on Spotify, you'll find links to Tina's work on our blog. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll find the links to Tina's work in the comments. So thank you, everyone. And I'll see you all in the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everyone, for listening to us. And thank you.